Good morning, my friends. Welcome back. We're here. We're doing our thing. Welcome to Bitcoin Magazine Live. Q is still in Amsterdam. You've got Chris and I. Chris, my friend, how are you doing?
I am doing well. Happy to be here. Happy to be wrapping up Bitcoin Amsterdam. It looked like a cool experience. I was glad to give the virtual experience for everyone, for our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was an amazing show. You and I were here, man the boards. We banished Q to Amsterdam because, an 18-hour flight or whatever, full travel experience is a lot. But so much great content. I'm so curious. What was your favorite moments, or what were some of your favorite moments, some of your favorite talks from the conference?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of great talks. I mean, we got to witness all of it live from afar. But I liked I'll just talk about little things about the conference. Like, I think it was really cool the tulips all over the place. So, like,
Yeah, that
obviously,
was
like the hinting at the tulip
great meme
mania.
potential.
Uh, and it was just a very cool venue in general. I think it was very, very cool that the dome that they were in, the main stage, and there was just like a lot of cool. I think the news desk, the analyst desk, killed it. There was a lot of great guests on the desk. But I think my favorite talk of all the talks that are out there was the Stella Assange talk. So she was obviously the wife of Julian Assange, and she was talking about how Julian Assange's fight is really the Bitcoiners' fight. And what she means by that, it's really an attack on free speech and just freedom in general. And obviously, they're going after him for basically just telling the truth or speaking freedom, like speaking what occurred. I think there was a great quote that said, or there was a sign that Germano posted. It's like reporting a crime is not a crime, is what it was said, and in red basically. And obviously, they were hinting at talking about Julian Assange, saying the crimes that the U.S. government and governments abroad have committed, and basically he's being made an example of because of that. What are your thoughts? What was your favorite talk?
Yeah, I thought that one was really powerful. I thought that the talk with Stefan and Odell and all the others about FATFA, I thought that was a really, really good one as well. Obviously, we posted the tweet from Odell, basically just talking about how these Orwellian and unnecessary regulations and compliance requirements actually are pitched to us as something that is designed to prevent terrorism and keep us safe. But in fact, empirically, the actual result is that it puts, upstanding American citizens at risk, and they're super fucked up. So I really appreciated that comment, and then also that just very dry delivery of they can go fuck themselves, which they absolutely can.
Yeah, and for anyone that missed those, you can obviously watch the live stream to watch all of it, or we are clipping. We're clipping rapidly as fast as we can our team to try and get them all out for you to view just the segments that you want to watch. So in the coming weeks, we should have all of the talks from Bitcoin Amsterdam up. We're trying to bring it to you as fast as possible. So hope you guys enjoy them and let us know what you like. We always appreciate feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, you should be following us on YouTube, of course. That's where these are all getting posted. There is a playlist there that is the Bitcoin Amsterdam playlist. There's also our Twitter account. We're posting some of our favorite clips to that. That's at Video Bitcoin, all lowercase, all one word, and that's where we'll be posting all of our stuff. And it's also where we broadcast, who we're talking to and what we're talking about during this show. So follow both those accounts.
Yeah, and we will also be posting to Rumble as well. So check out there. We're trying
Yes,
to
of course,
diversify our platforms. So definitely check us out on Rumble as well.
Absolutely. All right, let's get into it. So our first story comes to us from Target. It is now getting easier and easier to create, to basically be sovereign, to have custody of your own private keys. The story here is Target is now carrying Bitcoin hardware wallets. You can go and buy Ledger Nano at Target, which is a huge, it's a big box store. Millions of Americans shop at Target stores all over the country. And that's a huge thing. I remember when, hardware world, back in the day, if you were creating a secure Bitcoin wallet, no joke, you had to do a paper wallet, which entailed the most secure way you could do this was you took a printer, you ripped out the Wi-Fi card from the printer, You connected the printer to your computer, an air-gapped computer, an attempt to make an air-gapped computer. You printed out your set of private keys. You then smashed the printer. You destroyed it so that no one else would ever have access to that printer, or potentially the memory that had been in that printer that had held your private keys. Then it was like, then you took the laptop, you folded up into an origami piece, you threw that out the window, you went and got it from the street, you smashed it even further. It was crazy, right? These days we have hardware wallets. When those first came out, they were impossible to get. And the fact that, less than, a decade later, you can now buy a purpose-built computer, that is to say a hardware wallet that is designed to securely store your private keys and allow you to sign transactions. That's fucking amazing. So let's fucking go.
Yeah, no, I'm all about it. I will just say I love the way that Odell presents things in Rabbit Hole Recap or Citadel Dispatch. There's trade-offs to everything. So when you are buying something at Target, hardware wallet, let's just say, just make sure that the saran wrap on the device is completely enclosed, that it wasn't opened. I know that this was kind of like there was a lot of people repurposing or reselling hardware wallets on Amazon, and they were basically taking it out and compromising the device.
Oh, yes.
So if you go to send Bitcoin to yourself, you're actually sending it to someone that already opened up the device, basically didn't hack it, but basically, took the private keys and made it so that way any private key you generated on that device would actually go to them.
No, I'm so glad you brought this up. This is an extremely important point. Would have been remiss of me if we hadn't talked about this. Chris is pointing out that when there are hardware devices that are in a store on a little rack in Target, that is just absolutely ripe for what's called a supply chain attack, which is where someone gets access to the hardware device before it gets to your hand, and they compromise it such that they can then sweep your private key, sweep your Bitcoin later. So personally, I would never buy a hardware device from a big box store because I don't have any way of verifying that it came directly from the manufacturer to my door into my hand. It's the same reason you should never accept a hardware wallet at a Bitcoin conference, for example, because you have no idea how that device was stored and someone could have compromised it and then they could sweep your funds later. So I think this is a fantastic thing because it puts these devices into the hands of more people. But if you have bought one from Target or something like that, if you bought one from Amazon, I would use that as either part of a multi-sig or even better, just as a way to sort of securely keep your funds, but a much smaller amount. You should not be putting your full stack on something like this because, again, you don't know how it got to you. The most secure hardware wallets come, with very specific systems that allow you to have a much better chance that it has not been compromised. Cold Card, for example, Bitbox O2, they come with.
I got the case for a seed signer right here. So building your own.
Yeah, they come with like tons of security features that allow you to, hopefully reduce the chance that it's been supply chain attacked. But let's keep going. We got a lot to cover today.
Definitely. So CoinCorner announced at Bitcoin Amsterdam on Wednesday, they are expanding their operation into El Salvador. So starting on Wednesday, residents of El Salvador can now open a CoinCorner account and access our full range of Bitcoin and Lightning services, including the fully functionality of our contactless Bitcoin Lightning card, the Bolt card. For those wondering, right now it costs €4.99 in order to, or British pounds, my apologies, to buy one of those. You can buy them off their website. I think this is awesome. They are expanding their operations there. Obviously, they're following in Strike's lead of being in the UK, but now also in El Salvador. And there's talks that they will even be opening up a branch there. So right now they're just offering all services with an internet connection, but it looks like they will be offering out opening up shop there as well, which is really, really cool.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, the more people that have access to Bitcoin, the better. For our next story, we're talking about Lily Wallet, version 1.1. So Lily Wallet is a new hardware device. It's a secure wallet designed for everyone on their journey towards financial freedom. Specifically, they say many users have expressed frustration with multi-sig vault creation, especially when you're trying to do it across geographic distances. Lily Wallet has a system they've introduced, which is an ability to request key information via a URL. This will allow users to send key information by sending participants a URL that contains the vault creation flow on their machine. So, there's no more like file extraction, copying and pasting, or manually configuring forms in another app. You just got to send the link to a person who wants to participate in the multi-sig and enter their keys. There's a lot of other nuances here. You can optionally attach an advice owner and things like that. Which are designed to kind of give clarity to vault members in a convenient way to message participants and coordinate transactions. So really what this is doing in a nutshell is it's creating a more efficient and user experience friendly flow for the most secure form of Bitcoin storage, which is a multi-sig setup where you have multiple signing devices. So, multiple hardware wallets, as an example, that are required in order to sign and successfully, verify a Bitcoin transaction that moves Bitcoin. So, there are questions around, sort of the security trade-offs here to what you mentioned earlier, Chris, around, if you're using a URL, like how is that information getting stored? Who, what services is it getting stored on? Who has access to it? But again, you got to think of security in these types of situations as a spectrum, and something like Lily Wallet and, potentially has a very important place on that spectrum. As an example, if you have a group of friends who are raising, a small amount of funds for something, and you want to use a system like this, it makes it so much easier to coordinate signing these transactions, because otherwise you'd have to be using email and all this crazy shit in order to get that partially signed Bitcoin transaction, a PSBT, across to all the various people. They have to sign it, they have to add it back. Systems like this that encapsulate that entire process into an easy workflow, they make trade-offs, but they also make having this incredible amount of security way, way easier. So super excited about this. I have not played around with it yet, but it's good stuff and I applaud them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be very, very cool if P, U, I, and Q set up a Lily Wallet multi-sig from geographic distances. Maybe if we do it live on air as a joke. And then, it'd be really funny. The SWAT team busts in and they take me, but then you guys can still move the funds, even if I'm taking it to custody. I'm completely kidding. I am not planning to swap myself. That would be horrible. But
because you are a Fed, of course. You're a spook.
I'm a Fed.
Yeah, I will also say, like I said, I have not played around with Lily Wallet myself, so I can't vouch for it myself. But
it looks like a desktop implementation from what I was seeing from a lot of screenshots. I also have not used it yet, but this is something that they announced at the TAD conference, so something I definitely want to dig into.
Absolutely. So what I would encourage people to do is play around with this. Again, remember, not your keys, not your coin. Don't trust, verify yourself. So please do not take this as an endorsement or anything like that. I just think that these types of systems that are being built out in the ecosystem are fantastic, and I want to support them and explore more. Let's keep going.
Peach Bitcoin has allowed for P2P cash transactions easily at Bitcoin Amsterdam. So we announced a few weeks ago, Peach Bitcoin was in beta. It is an app that was specifically designed for people in Europe in mind. So Proof of Steph is her name, and also the developer for it. Basically, they sent out a message to their users saying, hey, we can help facilitate peer-to-peer Bitcoin transactions via fiat cash. Obviously, they had warnings saying, we do not know these people. We cannot verify for them. Please be safe. Do not do exchanges of too large of money. But yet, it looks like there was some pictures from Bitcoin Amsterdam of people doing fiat to Bitcoin transactions. Very, very cool. And you love to see it. So kind of stealing into BISC's market. The more options you have, the better for the users. So love to see it. I'd love to test out Peach Bitcoin sometime. I know currently, like I said, it's in either alpha or beta. So really cool.
Love it. Our next story is from Satan herself, Elizabeth Warren. She still fucking hates Bitcoin. No surprise to anybody. She has submitted a letter. She is leading a group of Democratic lawmakers who are pressing Texas officials for details on how cryptocurrency miners may be straining the state's power grid. So, sorry, it is so frustrating. I'm shaking my head. Specifically, in a letter Wednesday, the lawmakers asked the Texas grid operator to provide details on almost 6 years of miners' electricity usage, their carbon dioxide emissions, and how consumers' energy bills will be impacted as they expand. They're also asking the grid operator, the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, to disclose payouts to miners for curtailing power use during extreme demand periods. They say, this is a direct quote from the letter, crypto miners' energy use rivals that of entire countries and taxpayers in Texas or anywhere in the nation. Taxpayers in Texas or anywhere in the nation shouldn't subsidize their profits, especially when the energy grid is on the verge of collapse. So this is so frustrating because this is such a clearly biased take, right? It's not, hey, what is the status of Bitcoin mining in Texas? Is this possibly a good thing? The entire letter presupposes that this is a terrible thing and is actually a very shittily veiled, smear campaign, a FUD campaign against Bitcoin mining. The reality, as we talk about a lot on the show, is that Bitcoin mining actually benefits the environment. It creates incredible opportunities that have never existed before to recapture and rescue stranded energy. That is to say, energy that is being produced at a site where you can't effectively transmit that energy as it's produced to major population centers, because when you produce energy, you lose incredible amounts of electricity as you transmit that across physical space. Whereas when you're mining Bitcoin, you can just generate that energy on site, and then you can use it to mine Bitcoin, and then you can send that Bitcoin easily with incredible security to wherever you want in the world. Also, Bitcoin miners can be turned on or off at will, which is very unusual, right? Normally, when you have these generation systems, when you have ways to generate electricity, you can't just turn them on and off very easily. You have to basically spin them up, and then there is an amount of electricity that's being produced per unit time. And even when the amount of electricity that is being required by the grid is lower than that amount you're producing, you can't just like dial it down. And Bitcoin mining allows people to just use that excess energy instantly, essentially, to generate income via Bitcoin. So they actually help to balance the grid really effectively, and you can turn them on and turn them off very easily. Chris, what do you think here? How much bullshit is this?
Last time I checked, Elizabeth Warren is not a senator or a congresswoman, for that matter, from Texas. So she's actually very far across the United States, in Massachusetts, last time I checked. So it's funny that she has interest in what Texas is doing. I hope the Texas officials go her to pound sand and, go do her own, helping out her own citizens. I don't know why she cares about Texas. She lives in Massachusetts. Is she in the Biden administration all of a sudden? Last time I checked, no. So she's not a federal official. She is for her state. So she should be worrying about Massachusetts issues, not poking and prodding in the state of Texas. But that's just me.
Yep, absolute horseshit. She can go fuck herself.
All right. The Treasury Department is getting sued over regulatory overreach. So CoinCenter is backing a second lawsuit against the US Treasury Department for allegedly its sanctioning of Tornado Cash overstepping its legal bounds. What do I mean by this? So in a quote tweet from David Hoffman, I'm suing the Department of the Treasury. I got dusted from Tornado Cash, and now every year of my life, I am forced to file a report reaffirming that I am not a criminal. I don't intend to waste my time like that. So David Hoffman versus Janet Yellen, let's dance. He's currently, like I said, being backed by CoinCenter, which is a crypto lobbying arm in DC. Obviously we've talked ad nauseum about Tornado Cash, while P and I do not support Ethereum and the protocol. I like the Treasury Department even less than I like Ethereum, and I don't like Ethereum very much. So that says a lot about Janet Yellen and the Treasury Department.
Wait. You don't like it very much? You got to be more strenuous than that.
I despise them.
There we go.
So I fully back David Hoffman and the creeping overreach of the state. So I hope he wins in an onslaught of basically taking away freedoms. And it's pretty ridiculous that he has to report every year for the rest of his life. I'm assuming
Everyone does, by the way.
Yeah, everyone that's in that has to reaffirm for the rest of their life. So it's very, very. I guess it's good that they're going after. It's going to help a lot of people instead of having an additional piece of litigation or taxing implementations that they have to do going forward.
Yeah, I mean, just for the audience, Tornado Cash is an Ethereum-based, privacy-enhancing tool. I detest Ethereum for many reasons, which we talk about a lot. But Tornado Cash is actually an interesting implementation, similar to what Samurai Wallet does, or Join Market, or Wasabi, right? So it allows you to maintain your privacy on a public blockchain. And recently, there were sanctions put against it that were absolutely insane, totally ridiculous. This is open source software. One of the main developers was arrested in the Netherlands, actually, where we just had Bitcoin Amsterdam. So this is a massive government overreach on a scale that we haven't seen before. And so, to your point, Chris, even though Ethereum is bullshit and it's a shitcoin, this affects all of us, and we need to be rallying behind pushing back on this.
Yeah. One last thing that Odell actually said at the end of the FATF talk that you really enjoyed, or was your favorite talk. Alexei Pertsev is the lead developer for Tornado Cash, is still in custody, and we won't get a ruling until end of November whether he is going to be released. They struck down his appeal, so his lawyer filed an appeal to get him out of jail, and he's been in jail from what I suspect from middle of August. So yeah, it's a real shame. Hopefully he gets let out without any charges. But yeah, they're trying to make an example of him for sure.
Yep. All right. Our next story, our title story. Kanye West, the artist formerly known as Kanye West, now Ye, has been fucked over by the banks. I learned early yesterday that Kanye West was officially kicked out of JP Morgan Chase Bank. As I understand it, there was no official reason given, but they sent a letter to him to confirm that he had until late November to find another place for the Yeezy empire to bank. Now, in my opinion, the tweet that he put out was totally insane and don't agree with it. However, we all got First Amendment rights. He should be able to say whatever he wants, wherever he wants it. However, Twitter is a private platform. These banks are private entities. So a person can say whatever they want, wherever they want it. And these entities have the right as private companies to be Orwellian and authoritarian and to censor people. And that's the world we live in. And so I completely disagree with what he said, but I support his ability to say it, and I will fight for that. I also think that we need to understand that places like Twitter, these banks, as I said, they're private entities, and they're going to do whatever they want to do in order to protect their private interests. We can't view them as like commons and try to tell them, or we can't expect them to not do what they believe in a misguided way is in their best interests. The solution here is we must advocate for these decentralized and censorship-resistant platforms and systems. That is the answer here. That's what we need to be focused on. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, so I agree largely with what you say. I will counter, I guess, a little or add some nuance there, that while these are private institutions, they are publicly funded. What do I mean by that? I mean, the banks, as shortly as 2008, were bailed out by a ton of public money. And whether it wasn't directly taxed, it was taxed via inflation by all of the money printing. Another thing that I want to bring up, in as early as February of this year, Jen Psaki, when she was still the press secretary, was saying that we need to advocate for these private companies to censor things that do not come from our administration or misinformation. Obviously, they tried to do a Ministry of Truth, which I literally sounds like something out of the Harry Potter series.
I know, it's fucking incredible.
And luckily it crashed and burned after just 6 weeks. But you know, I agree that a private institution such as Twitter or JP Morgan Chase can do whatever they want. It is their institution. They are allowed to bank with who or whoever they do or do not want to bank with, or give access to their platform. However, when you are bailed out with public money, or you are acting as an arm of the state, like, where are those lines blurred? And that's literally what the Constitution was written as. Like, yes, private entities and businesses are allowed to do and serve whoever they want. But when you're serving the U.S. government, that's when the Constitution comes in, and that you have your First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights, and all of the Bill of Rights. So it does, the waters do get a little bit muddied when the government's telling them what to do and not to do. With that being said, if you guys have not read the the manifesto. What's the manifesto that Odell?
Cyberpunk's manifesto?
The Cyberpunk's manifesto. There we go. In that, we cannot control policy. We cannot vote our way out of tyranny. All we can do is code. I'm basically just paraphrasing it, but basically we are going to fight censorship and these centralized entities with code, not with our willing to vote or to try and outcompete them with fiat money. We cannot, but we can write code, and we can opt out of their system by using Bitcoin. So I'll just leave you on that.
Yeah, I will. That's a great fucking point. My initial response was overly simplistic, because you're absolutely right. These are they're publicly funded entities at this point. So fuck them. I will modify my point and say we should not expect any better. And more importantly, we should not I mean, we can demand whatever we want, but we need to expect it to continue and to get much worse. So yeah, you're right. These are privately owned companies that are publicly funded. We have a, we socialize these losses, and that's fucked up.
Definitely. So, where in the world is Do Kwon? P, I'm asking you, do you know where he is? Because I do not know where, and apparently, like all 195 other countries on the red notice or Interpol list do not know where he is either.
Oh, God.
With
no,
that
who the
being
fuck
said,
knows?
With that being said, Laura Shin, she is a crypto reporter or analyst. I forget where she works now, but crypto reporter is apparently recording an interview with him this morning, or already recorded it. She will be releasing it in the coming weeks, I assume. I'm looking forward to hearing how this interview goes with a red notice out for him. Laura Shin is definitely a very easy interviewer. This is nothing against what she is. She normally softballs questions. She doesn't. She's not one to push back or give a lot of hard pushing questions. With that being said, I do enjoy listening to some of the interviews she has had in the past with prolific figures. So it's going to be very funny if like Do Kwon's face is hidden. Like, is he off camera? Is he on camera? Is he just like sipping on a beach somewhere? I assume Do Kwon's smart enough to do that when you are obviously on red notice for a bunch of countries in the world, and you
got to define for the audience what is a red notice.
Oh, so red notice is so there's a group called Interpol, which is basically like a global. I don't want to say like policing system, but that's the best way to describe it. That if, let's just say, you are a fugitive of the law and it's considered
a fugitive from justice,
a fugitive from justice,
a fugitive from justice,
a fugitive from justice, and you committed a crime that normally encapsulates a large portion of the world, you will be put at a red notice will go out and basically saying that these 195 countries have agreed that if you're a fugitive or put as a red notice, they will detain you and actually extradite you back to the country that you are from. So obviously, Do Kwon is South Korean, or at least that is where his passport is. He was living abroad in Singapore, and there was a wellness check weeks ago for him at his Singapore apartment. He was not there. And so he's somewhere in the world, and obviously any of the 195 Interpol countries, if they find him or their authorities, police, local police, or federal police find him, the goal is to detain him and then extradite him back to South Korea, where he can face justice.
I like that you said it correctly. Justice. He basically, just for everyone that's listening, he is the creator of the Terra Luna collapse, and people are after him and want to get answers. And he originally purported like, I'm 100% cooperating. I'm here. This was a mistake. I wish it had gone otherwise. And was like, just kidding, and threw a smoke bomb and disappeared. And so, he's going to do everything he can to look out for himself. Let's keep going. CPI print remains high at 8.2% year over year. This is fucking massive. The core CPI rose 6.6% in September, which is the largest annual increase since 1982. There are ongoing attempts to kind of marginalize this increase. I don't have it in front of me, but there was a relatively official statement that changed the framing to be like, it's only this percentage per month over in this weird way of looking at it to try to make it seem smaller. But this is massive. We've all experienced it. We all can look back and talk about the various things that we buy in our day-to-day lives and how much the price has increased over the last 2 to 3 years. That's a weird thing, right? I remember growing up and there this kind of like abstract concept of inflation, this kind of joke of, my parents were like, oh, you could buy a house in the Sears catalog for $5,000 and, it was the whole house and the land that it stood on. Whereas now we're actually having these conversations within our own lifetimes and even within like months to months and years to years. It's fucking crazy to me that gas in LA, where, our co-host Q is based, not to dox him, but also to dox him because he talks about it all the time, is over $7 a gallon. Like, what the fuck is going on? So don't believe the false framing that is being pushed down our throats. Understand that everyone has an agenda. And when you see these CPI numbers and the frames that are being pushed by, the dominant media and, engines, understand what's really going on. I really like Shadow Stats, which is a site that aggregates these metrics based on the sort of previous ways of defining them rather than the updated and biased versions. Check it out. Let's keep going though. Chris, tell us about what's going on with Custodia Bank.
So, Custodia Bank has filed a lawsuit against the Federal Reserve alleging favoritism after authorities allowed mainstream lender BNY Mellon to offer crypto services before Custodia. So, Custodia, formerly known as Avanti Bank, is head up by Caitlin Long, friend of the show. She actually announced on our show that she was pursuing this lawsuit. But so she had this lawsuit going a few months ago against them, and was, she's had Custodia or Avanti Bank since I believe either 2017 or 2018. They were pushing to be the first crypto regulated bank. They had done all of the due diligence, the regulatory framework behind it, setting it up, trying to be set up based out of Wyoming. Then here, lo and behold, BNY Mellon gets grandfathered in, no questions asked, and Custodia's application is still held up at the federal level. So obviously, she's very pissed off about how they did not offer her bank. Even if they were offered to NY Mellon, at least offer them at the same time. It's like, nope, here our friends at NY Mellon get it, but Custodia Bank, you still have to wait in line. So very unfair. Obviously, it gives them the first mover advantage of being a bank that can offer crypto services compared to hers. So she feels definitely slighted. It obviously, we do not know where this lawsuit's going to go or how it's going to play out. It's going to probably take a few years to do so. But I support Caitlin Long and her fighting tyranny or fighting favoritism of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, agreed. Our next story, we were talking about Lily Wallet earlier in this program. To my knowledge, the only other app that allows this kind of, what's the right word? Facilitated multi-sig setup among multiple people is Nunchuk. However, there is a Bitcoin app called Keeper that shows a video of a person setting up a multi-sig vault in under 50 seconds using a cold card, ledger, and a tap signer. Chris, I believe we have a clip we're going to roll. Let's do it.
Yep. This is awesome. So as you can see in this video, they're just setting it up and they do it in like 50 seconds. Pretty sweet.
The silence is deafening.
It is, but I'm waiting here with bated breath. All right. And yeah, so very cool. They used NFC on the cold card. They used Bluetooth on the ledger device. And then obviously they were using NFC as well for the tap signer. Very, very cool. They do it in as little as 50 seconds. So obviously the ledger and the cold card had already been set up with their seed phrases, or their seed words were already written down and configured. But nonetheless, doing 50 seconds to set up a multi-sig is crazy. It is really, really cool. And you love to see it. I mean, the easier it gets. Can you set up a bank account in 50 seconds? I really don't think you can do that in 50 seconds.
Fuck no. Can you do that without having to submit any KYC information? Verify yourself, dox yourself? Absolutely not. Again, this is not us explicitly endorsing any of these products, right? Again, neither of us has used a specific thing. The thing that we want to support here on this show is people pushing the boundaries of what is possible in terms of user experience, because we're all, obsessed with Bitcoin. We will spend hours setting up these incredibly secure systems, but we need to be investing in products, services, and systems that empower people who don't have time to know as much about Bitcoin, but still need access to these sovereign financial systems. And so do your own research, check these tools out, form your own conclusions. But mad props to everyone that is pushing those boundaries and creating more effective UX around Bitcoin.
Yep. So JP Morgan Chase cannot stay out of the news still. So we talked about him with debanking Kanye. They have also debanked the National Committee for Religious Freedom for inexplicable reasons. They just, send them a note saying we're kicking you out of our banking system. With a caveat though, they said that if they will let them back into their bank if they shared their donor list. So basically, if the National Committee for Religious Freedom were to dox their donor list, whether it was companies, entities, politicians, just normal citizens, they would allow them back in. Obviously, the risks of doing so by doxing their donor list, then JP Morgan Chase could essentially debank all of the people that are donors to them. So I don't know what's going to come of it. I don't know if this group will or will not dox their donor list. But if they do, it's basically like shooting themselves in the foot, I would assume. Yeah, I mean, JP Morgan Chase, once again, Bitcoin fixes this. If, the National Committee for Religious Freedom wants to set up donations with Bitcoin, I'm sure us at Bitcoin Magazine, as well as many other Bitcoiners, would love to help them set up with a distributed multi-sig or using, oh my gosh, BTC Pay Server. There we go. I'm drawing a blank there. It's Friday. But BTC Pay Server in order to accept donations. So yeah, this is very, very interesting. Bitcoin does fix this, and banks are just shooting themselves in the foot left and right.
And we should expect it, right?
Yes.
Everyone, you show us the incentives, we'll show you the outcome. Banks are heavily incentivized to go down this path, and they will continue to do so until they have no other choice. And that, to me, is the most amazing thing about Bitcoin, is that it effectively aligns incentives so that what is best for the individual is best for Bitcoin, strengthens the network, and is best for the community. Our next story comes to us from Jamie Dimon. He is slamming President Biden. He says, "This is fucking war." He's slamming Biden for begging the Saudis for oil. He says investors don't give a shit about ESG. I hate to say it, I could not agree more on this point.
We'll give JP Morgan a 1 out of 3 for the day. So two bad things, one good thing. I do kind of agree with Jamie Dimon on this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. ESG as a concept, as an idea, is understandable, but the way that it is implemented and what it is being used to push is diabolical, and we got to stand against it.
Yes. So, unfunded liabilities go burr. What do I mean by that? Social Security cost of living adjustment will be going up 8.7%. So, we just announced today 8.3% is the year over year inflation, but your Social Security liabilities are going up 8.7% in 2023. This is the highest increase to the cost of living adjustment in over 40 years, according to CNBC. So obviously, these are unfunded liabilities, meaning that obviously they will try and print more money to do so, and or probably our taxes will go up. Our federal taxes most likely will be going up to help cover or offset some of the cost or the amount of money printing they are going to have to do for this. So we've already printed record amounts of money in 2020 and 2021. We're obviously trying to taper down in 2022. But as Greg Foss says, it is mathematically impossible. It is 11th grade math. Mind you, this is coming from a man who went to Cornell for engineering. So in my 11th grade math, I'm an engineer by trade as well. I'd say this is probably more advanced college calculus and stuff like that, but remains to be seen. What do you think of this, Pete?
Sorry, I agree. Yeah, I agree with your assessment. Our next story comes to us from Russia. Russian journalists and activists have been kicked off of crypto exchanges due to EU sanctions. The European Commission last week boosted restrictions on providing financial services to Russians. I cannot stand the use of financial systems as an economic attack vector. We talk about kinetic warfare versus economic and financial warfare, and the reason the governments use it is because financial and economic warfare is more palatable to citizens, but it is just as, if not more, damaging over the long term. And we need to understand that, and that's what's going on here. It's fucked up. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, a lot of these journalists were just trying to report unbiasedly or even just supporting Ukraine, and they're getting kicked off of the system just because they are of Russian nationality. So it's like shooting your allies in the back. So this is horrible. I believe I think many citizens in the world are not in favor of war, and it's sad to see that so much like friendly fire goes on. It's like there's a great quote, like I said, from Call of Duty back in the day, where it said, "Old men declare war for young men to go off and die for it," and I think that's so true. I think war is a horrible thing, and the way of solving it is doing financial restrictions that hurt just the citizens just as much as war does. So this is horrible. I hope it ends soon. And yeah, Bitcoin.
Just to be clear, did you just quote a video game?
I did.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Hey, when you're right, and you're fucking right. Yeah, just to be a little bit more detail in the story, or just to provide a little bit more detail, specifically crypto exchanges, Local Bitcoins, Crypto.com, and Blockchain.com have notified all of their Russian users that their services will soon be discontinued, and they recommended that their users withdraw funds from their accounts.
It's nice to give them at least a little notice, so I give them props for that.
Yeah, I'm sure they took on some, regulatory or or risk by doing so, but again, money should not be a tool of war in the sense that for individuals, the idea of restricting an individual person's access to the value and the money that they have acquired is beyond fucked up in my mind. I know I said this very kind of drunkenly in a conversation with Odell and Q, where in my head I was only talking for 30 seconds, but after 3 drinks in, I was talking for like 30 minutes about it. But I often think of like Bitcoin in like sci-fi stories. If you think of like money almost as like oxygen, right? If you imagine being in space where there is very limited oxygen, the idea of like threatening to deprive people of oxygen would be so fucked up. People would lose their minds. But for some reason, access to financial systems is not viewed in the same way. People view it as this sort of abstract thing that maybe the state should have control over. But in my mind, it's as essential and important as literally oxygen, which you will die without, 4 minutes of.
Yeah, I know Michael Saylor loves to equate it to blood. So like money is like blood, and it obviously you need it to survive. Speaking of Michael Saylor, so there's really, really big news. This is actually really cool news. Companies should use fair accounting measures. What do I mean by this? The Financial Accounting Standards Board on Wednesday said that companies should use fair value accounting for measuring Bitcoin and other crypto assets. So Michael Saylor in a tweet, this is a major milestone on the road for institutional Bitcoin adoption. So what does this mean? So currently there currently is GAAP accounting rules, which basically mean that when you hold Bitcoin, or I forget the classification that they call it, it's not just digital assets. There's some other higher categorization. But anyway, when you hold Bitcoin on your balance sheet as a company, you cannot account for the appreciation that when Bitcoin goes up. You cannot like say, oh, like my company's now more valued at this. But you also get hit on the downside. What I mean by that is if Bitcoin's price goes down below the average cost of purchasing, you get dinged with, you have to write down your income statement, meaning that you have to basically deduct from your income, even though you're holding it on your balance sheet side of the, there's your income statement, your balance sheet. If you're holding on your balance sheet, if Bitcoin's price goes down too much, you actually have to write off your income and say you lost money, or you have to take it out of net income that you've made. And if Bitcoin goes low enough, you can essentially bankrupt a business because of it, because you're writing down the income. You're saying you have net negative income, and you have to write that down on your balance sheet. So it's a big contagion effect for businesses for holding Bitcoin. So obviously it was a big risk for Michael Saylor to take on this bet. He does not see it as a risk, and we agree with him on that. But yeah, just very, very interesting. Just a few other things. Companies must review the value of such assets at least once per year and write it down if they drop below the purchase price. Like I said, if the value rises, the company can only record a gain when they sell the asset, not if they continue to hold it. So this was obviously hampering MicroStrategy because they plan to hold forever. Companies and accountants want the FASB or FASB to adopt fair accounting instead of the GAAP accounting rules, which allow them to recognize losses and gains immediately and treat digital assets as a financial asset instead of just a digital asset on their balance sheet. So this is fucking huge. I think this is really, really cool. Pete, what are your thoughts to this?
No, man, I totally agree. I think this is a, Michael Saylor, after he, put a significant, or rather converted his treasury into Bitcoin, created a playbook for other corporations and, held essentially a conference teaching others how to benefit from the significant amount of legal research that he and MicroStrategy did. I think this this is a huge deal. As you said, it frees companies up to invest in Bitcoin as companies, and hopefully will speed adoption. I want to see as many companies as possible using the most robust and sound money that's available to them. I want to see more and more companies and individuals, of course, freed from the financial tyranny of the state. And this is a huge step in that direction.
Yep.
You got blurry for a second there. You looked like you were like,
did.
oh shit, he said something intense. Whoa! But then it went back to normal.
Exactly.
All right. Well, my friend, I think we are at the end of our stories for the day. Bitcoin Amsterdam has happened. As we said at the top of the show, we will be and are actively working to get those clips out on our YouTube channel. Make sure you are following our YouTube channel. Make sure you are following Video Bitcoin on Twitter, where we are posting these updates. The streams from the main stage at Bitcoin Amsterdam for day 1 and day 2 are both posted. You can see those now, and we are publishing the individual segments as fast as we can. We're getting about 5 a day, starting with the main stage, and then over the next 2 weeks, we will be releasing those on our YouTube. So you'll be able to check those out and enjoy them. There's some really good content. Super proud of the team there, and yeah, let's fucking go. On that note, Bitcoin 2023 tickets are available right now. You can use code BMLive to save 10% off of your ticket. I'd recommend that you do so. It is and will be the largest conference in the world focused on Bitcoin. If you are going to go to a single Bitcoin conference this year, you got to go to Bitcoin 2023. Everyone is there, all of the most significant announcements, and it's a fucking great party. So be there or be square.
You are too late for Bitcoin Amsterdam. Luckily, we recorded it so you can watch it there, but you do not want to be late to Bitcoin 2023. Be there, be square. That's all I got.
It's the most serious I've ever seen you. All right, my friends, we'll see you on Monday, and back to our regularly scheduled programming. Peace
out.